to it. Eradicate it. I'll do it. I'll do it. As the do it. None can escape the Emperor's judgment. Faith with a shrug is a prayer. Doubt is none can escape the Emperor's judgment. As the Emperor, my Emperor, is a prayer.
Hello everyone, Reverend619 here. Hope you're all doing very well today. So we're going to be moving on to the next on our companions to cover the updated builds, which is Argenta. Now, prior to the DLC, Argenta was probably the highest damage companion that you had. With the DLC, some of the new classes, some of the new companions, some of the new setups, she's comfortably and easily dropped down to third behind Heinrichs and Cabela for damage potential because of what they can do is just insane with some of the new items and classes. However, depending on what you're abusing, she might even drop down to 4th or 5th. This is mostly because of the burst fire abuse that you can do with assassins. So if you have a burst fire only weapon and you use Killing Edge will apply to all those hits of those burst attacks. With the Temperis Elite Carapace backpack, you can turn some of those burst fires into very high counts. So let's say of the chainsaw, you can then be doing 12 plus Killing Edge burst fires, which is going to absolutely melt things. Or like I showed off with Urilet, which I haven't min-maxed this setup, but even using Sweet Perdition, that's 7 Killing Edges that you're doing with all your usual stacks and stuff. So there is a lot that you can do with it, especially if you're also hitting openings, and then you've got all the other little riders going on with that. So you're probably looking, like I said, that she's going to be about third because there's not that many items that actually support her damage. So you've got like the Echo of Victory, which can do it when they're within 5 cells. You've got saying that Cognatius's Scriptures, which can give you like a nice little 12% boost. Her Fired Up gives you boosts. Her uses of her with Focus Incense, you can get some boosts on Revel and Slaughter. Well, Revel and Slaughter does it anyway, but the Perception is just a nice little add-on. Unfortunately, you don't get her unique armor to increase her critical damage until after the game's done, but you do get some very nice items like the Gunslinger's Helmet, which will increase her damage based on rate of fire, and you can stack this guy up. You can easily do 60 round burst by round 2. Round 1, you're probably getting like 40 to 50 out of it, which is still pretty nice. For gear wise, obviously compensating gloves, this is the reason why Ulfar can't compete with her for damage and never will. Again, also with the Gunslinger's Helmet, these two items here, yeah, that's why she BGs Ulfar quite bad. The +1 rate of fire isn't too bad. Obviously the Caligay of St. Keith, Ulfar has his own variant of that, but also the fact that the Heavy Bolter for each kill increases the rate of fire by 1. Yeah, this sends this guy to the moon. There's also some bare Heavy Flamers that you can get in Act 5, but there's not much point talking about Act 5 stuff because game's over. There's not really much to do. Obviously, because she can get into power armor, she has quite high deflection, quite high armor. You can put that up even further with Dependable, and her dodge, which might only be 92, but when you're taking these heavy burst fires, if you do have Alacrity, that dodge is going to go for the moon. Even when she's in light armor, this is kind of why I used earlier on, which is the Death World like Carapace, so her dodge is still very, very high, and her armor is still pretty damn good, even without the power armor. But with the power armor, she just looks better. she's just cooler. So yeah, what we're going to do now is we're going to have a little look at the build and talk about what changes that I've made going through it. When it comes to like grenades and stuff, obviously I like Iron O grenades, slow their armor, and his Repentance can just slow, disturb, and all other little things. So we're going to look at the two builds that I've got here for her. These I've just updated. I had forgotten to update her dual pistol one, which I've actually gone back and done now. So that's all nice and updated. Now, a few people had complained that I didn't go into heavy weapons until practically level 30. The reason for this was before the DLC, you didn't really get access to heavy guns until much later. But now with the slight changes, you can get into these a little bit earlier to do a little bit more with them. So we've got some options for you to go through depending on how you want to play her. So now what we do is level 14, we get heavy weapons proficiency for the stolen autocannon, and the build is done by level 24. once you have overpower here, you're pretty much done, and everything after this point is just to make it stronger. So this is a complete build by level 24. So you've got heavy gunner, you've got breaking point, you've got overpower, you've got always ready, and you've got all out. Like build's done. Build's done. Everything after this point is just making yourself stronger. Now, some of the things that I do is I do take cleansing faith here. However, what this does is versus Xenos, you can add your willpower damage to do more. You don't need that here. You could actually take this later because you're not really going to be running into a lot of Drukhari enemies until late Act 2/Act 3. So you could actually take Bolt Weapon Expert from here and you could move that to here. So I'll put a little note here. And obviously the same here. So just depending on what you want to do with that. Grenadier, very useful to get early on because increases your attack economy and it's quite useful. The way they change things in 1.3, you get a lot more grenades, so you get a lot more use out of this. Taking rapid reload early, taking fired up early, which is pretty good. You can take ballistic score here if you want to. You start reducing her the variation that you'll see on her burst fires. You want to drop her initial bolter immediately for any other burst fire weapon in the prologue. Get to a las rifle and don't go back to bolt rifles until you get to the Act 1 Explorator vendor, because her first one has 50 recoil, so that means the shots will go off wild like crazy. Emperor Protect is a good gimmick if you're actually buffing her willpower. Yeah, so Wreck and Ruin will increase your damage quite consistently. Alacrity is only a 1-turn dodge increase, so if you're going early and first and you're giving her turns, Alacrity is pretty good because that means when the enemy takes their turns, you're going to dodge. But if you're clearing the battlefield and you're not focusing on her, Rack and Ruin will get a little bit more out of it. Controlled shot, if you're being the main damage carrier, you're going to be doing a lot of burst fires. If you've got a heavy melee party, you're going to start mowing down your own team, or you're going to find you can't fire because of your own team. So you can take controlled shot early to get around that, or you can go into concentrated fire if you want to focus more on the flamers or the shotguns early. I like to use shotguns early. Law Imperium, she gets some bonuses to Imperium for being a sister sororitas, but also, like I was showing in the gear, we actually turn that into damage and armor. Muzzle Velocity, if you want to focus on the burst fire. Demolition Engineer, if you want to focus on shotguns and flamers, because obviously that will add your demolitions to it. You can take the other one later when we come back around to level 36, so what's up to you, it depends to you. Like I said, you get heavy weapon efficiency early. Reckless Rush, because we want to get that more movement scan to right place. Always Ready, this will actually then allow Reckless Rush to stack with it, because otherwise if you use Reckless Rush before you have versatility, you don't get anything out of it. We get All Out, so that way we can move and shoot. We then get Wildfire, because it increases our attack economy, and then that's when we start picking up our heavy gunner stuff. So yeah, like I said, by level 24 we're done. Level 28, you can choose to take Close Quarters Training or Flash Fire. Close Quarters Training is kind of bugged. It just gives you a blanket -10 to ballistic score, and then you can shoot in melee. I don't like that. I'd rather just position better and not use it, but for those of you who aren't very good positioning, you might want to get that early. I prefer Flash Fire because that way I can get those extra attacks easier. Like I said, Bolt Weapon Expert or Flames Face, depending on what you're going for. Funny enough, Heavy Bolter and the improved Heavy Bolter don't require Bolt Weapon proficiency to use. However, the Heretic Bolters do, which is a bit weird because there's one you get in Act 4 I noticed it requires Bolt Weapon proficiency. But anyway, Kick, so if enemies are on you, you can get them off. Cautious Approach, and Confident Approach. Confident Approach always reduces your damage. You will never do more damage using it than you will not using it. It just makes you have a consistent middle ground, but overall you are lowering your damage. Yeah, RNG tends to always go on the higher end of that. Yeah, like I said, Kick and Martial Art, they get stronger with your strength as you're going up, because obviously you're going to be needing that for the heavy weapons, and then when you have power armor, that's where you get a lot of mileage out of that. Flame Weapon Expert, obviously to lower the attack costs of the flame weapon, so you can switch between burst fire and flame weapons to increase your versatility. Funny enough, Argenta is actually weaker than a player-made heavy gun build because she can't use the Artificer armor. The Artificer armor drops burst fire down to 1 AP. She doesn't have access to that. But anyway, Perception we get because we want to slow enemies dodge. Eager for Battle, so we can get on all of our nice little things. Demolition Expert, yeah, we can switch it in and out there. No Heresy will actually help get some stuff. We've got the litanies in here. There's quite a few options that we have here. Vital Point's very good. Deadly Aim, very good. You could swap out Deadly Aim for something else if you really wanted to. Degraded Defense, very important, especially if you're taking extra burst fires. It's going to build up damage. Not many things against 5 to get enough out of this. Swift Slaughter can be quite useful. If you haven't picked up Alacrity, you definitely want Swift Slaughter here. You can try and sneak it in earlier for something else, but what you're going to swap out really depends on what you want to do. Yeah, but then all the other stuff like Tenderize, enough bullets for everyone, preferred targets, contempt for the weak, exploit weakness, these are just ways to increase your damage a little bit further. They're not necessary, but learning to use them and how and when to use them, that's what makes them very useful. Alternatively, there is also a pistol variant. This is to use the dual pistols, possibly a shotgun backup or a flamer backup. It's still very, very strong. I'm not going to run you through it as much as well because it's not really the one that I use, but it is a dual weapon combat alternative that you can do, and it's still very strong. You can do this as a bounty hunter with like burst fire only weapons, so when you use Cold or Bold, it will burst fire, or you can stick to it like that. But yeah, this is going to carry you through. I'll put in some more little combat videos so you guys can have a look at that, but yeah, this is very strong build.
Faith without deeds is worthless. The enemies of the Emperor will be undone. In thy light I stand, and thy light I crave. I'll do it. As the Emperor commands, strife is a prayer. Doubt is for the weak. I'll do it. Faith without deeds is worthless. I'll do it. Guided by faith. As the Emperor commands. Rejoice in battle. I'll do it. Faith without deeds, strife is. Doubt is for the weak. I will not. I'll do it. To my Emperor. As the Emperor commands, I act. Faith. I'll do it. For you, my Emperor! As the Emperor... For you, my Emperor! Doubt is for the weak. This is why I was chosen. My Emperor! Faith without deeds is worthless.